we've been talking a lot about the Mother Goddess lately. Well, when people tell you that there is no mother title for God in the Bible, talk to them about El Shaddai. Through the ages, translators and scholars have only guessed at the meaning of El Shaddai. And El Shaddai is usually rendered as God Almighty. The root shad refers to the Hebrew word Shaddad, meaning to violently destroy, or to a word in the Akkadian language, Shadu, meaning mountain. There are a few verses in the post-patriarchal period where the judging and the destroying meaning of Shaddai would fit. However, as you'll see, the early use of El Shaddai and Shaddai fully employed the word shad, which means breast in Hebrew. The early translators and readers seem to believe that the female body and God don't mix. Now, the New Jerusalem Bible does assert that God Almighty is not a correct translation and uses El Shaddai instead. However, it leaves the question open rather than mention the meaning of shad as breast. But a few Old Testament scholars have answered affirmatively that El Shaddai is indeed the God with the breast. Shad for woman's breast is used multiple times in the Bible, but the ending I is a way of making a Hebrew word plural possessive, my breasts. Now with El referring to God as power, so the essential meaning of El Shaddai is the divine power of my breast. All of the passages using El Shaddai in Genesis, with one exception, are fertility blessings, the blessings of the breast. In ancient times, breast milk nourished babies and children until they were about 3 years old. Mothers could feed their babies by breast milk, even when other food was scarce, and it ensured the survival of people groups, such as the Israelites. Now, in the first example of El Shaddai being used in a fertility context, God refers to one of her names for the first time in Genesis. Now, though Yahweh has been used by the writer of Genesis since chapter 2, God does not actually refer to herself as Yahweh until she tells Moses how to introduce her to the Israelites in Exodus. Now, instead, God calls herself El Shaddai. God appears to Abraham when he is 99 years old in Genesis 17, and she says to him, I am El Shaddai. Walk before me faithfully and be blameless. Then I will make my covenant between me and you will greatly increase your numbers. God continues in the theme of blessings to the children of the rest of the chapter 17, changing Abram to Abraham, which means progenitor of a multitude. Sarai was changed from a name for a barren mountain in the area to Sarah, being a noblewoman. And that's just one example. Now Genesis 28 shows Isaac blessing Jacob with these words, May El Shaddai bless you, and make you fruitful, and increase your numbers, until you become a community of peoples. When God changes Jacob's name to Israel, she again announces her own name in the context of the blessing of fertility. Well, she says, I am El Shaddai. Be fruitful and increase in number. Now in Genesis 43, Jacob, appeals to El Shaddai when hoping to see his youngest son Benjamin again after sending him down to Egypt with Judah. And may El Shaddai grant you mercy before the man, so that he will let your own brothers and Benjamin come back with you. Now when Jacob is old and ill, he recounts to Joseph the story of El Shaddai's promise of fruitfulness. El Shaddai appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me. God told me, I will make you bear fruit, and I will increase your descendants until they become a multitude of nations. And I will give this land to your descendants to have forever. And when Jacob is dying, he blesses Joseph in the same spirit that his father Isaac blessed him, with the same name of El Shaddai. He says, because of your father's God who helps you, because of El Shaddai who blesses you, with blessings of the heavens above, blessings of the deep that lies below, blessings of the breast and the womb. Both Shad as breast and the Akkadian Shadu for mountain may come into play here, as Jacob gets on to praise his own blessings as being greater than the blessings of the ancient mountains, than the bounty of the age-old hills. Biblical authors refer to God as El Shaddai or just Shaddai 37 more times. In Balaam's prophecy in Numbers, Shaddai is the God who speaks and reveals, as she did to Abraham. Balaam then describes the fulfilling of the covenant promise to the patriarchs, that the Israelites will flourish, your descendants will live by running streams. In Ezekiel 1 and 10, likewise, both now refer to El Shaddai's voice. Regardless, I am more grateful than ever that El Shaddai was the first revelation of the invisible God, and I believe this name gives us full permission to call God Mother. And the holy name of El Shaddai reminds us that God affirms and approves of the female body and identifies with its power. So, to finish up here, it's been argued that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was not Yahweh, and it was quite plausible that the mother goddess of ancient times was also venerated by pre-Mosaic patriarchs. It also appears that translators allowed them to superimpose values on biblical texts by amalgamating deities, reducing the gods of the Bible, worshipped by the patriarchs of the pre-Mosaic times, to Yahweh. So now, it is my contention that El Shaddai was feminine epithet that signified the mother goddess. What do you think?